Some of you, you've been praying. You've been begging God to use you. You've told him you'll do anything, go anywhere. But I have a question for you. Are you willing to be tested? You've been asking for the power, but have you considered the price? You want the anointing, but are you ready for the fire that forges it? You assume that a willing heart is all he needs, but I'm here to tell you that is not all. God does not use unprepared vessels. He will not pour his holy oil into a cup that is not yet clean, strong, and proven. There is a process, a divine curriculum. And before 1 ounce of his power rests upon you, you must first pass through the crucible. You must pass 8 specific tests. These are not my tests. These are God's tests. They are found in the secret places of his word, written in the lives of those he used mightily. What are they? How will you face them? In this sacred place today, you are going to discover the first of these 8 tests. You will see yourself in the refiner's fire, and you will know if you are truly ready for what you have been asking God to do. If your heart is truly hungry, if you are truly serious about being a vessel for the Master's use, then you will not move from this place. You will press in and you will listen with your whole spirit. Take what you hear and plant it deep within your soul. If you believe you are ready to face what God requires, then I want you to write the number 8 in the comments below. Let it be your covenant, a sacred declaration that you are willing to be tested for the glory that is to come. And the first of these, the one that lays the foundation for all that follows, is the test of the wilderness. You see, you cannot bypass this. You cannot skip this chapter in the divine curriculum. Every single vessel God has ever used in a significant way has first been led into a place of utter isolation. A place where every familiar comfort is stripped away. You pray for a platform, but he leads you into a desert. You ask for abundance, and he allows a season of profound lack. You cry out for connection, and he permits a loneliness so deep it feels like a physical ache. This is not his rejection. This is his preparation. Think of your own life for a moment. That season when the phone stopped ringing, when the invitation ceased, when the financial provision you prayed for simply did not come and you were left wondering if God had forgotten your address. You prayed, God, use me. And suddenly you found yourself in a spiritual wasteland surrounded by silence. You felt abandoned, didn't you? You thought you had done something wrong. You assumed the wilderness was a sign of his displeasure, a mark of failure. But I am here to tell you with all the authority of heaven that you were wrong. The wilderness is not a punishment. It is a promotion. It is the place where God separates you from everything you have been relying upon besides himself. He takes you into the dryness to teach you that man does not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds from the mouth of God. Your career cannot sustain your soul. Your relationships cannot be your foundation. Your own intellect and talent are a flimsy shelter in the storm. In the wilderness, he systematically removes every false prop, every earthly crutch until you have nothing and no one left to look to but him. It is a severe mercy. It is a painful, glorious stripping away. It is where you learn the difference between knowing about God and knowing God himself. In the lush valleys, you can be distracted by the greenery. But in the barren desert, your only source of shade, your only source of water is the shadow of the Almighty. Remember the children of Israel. God delivered them from Pharaoh's hand with a mighty arm and miracles that shook the earth. But then where did he lead them? Straight into the great and terrible wilderness. He could have taken them on a short, easy road to the promised land, but the scripture says, H led them about. He took them the long, hard, desolate way. Why? The Bible gives us the stunning answer to prove them and to know what was in their heart. He was testing them to see if they would rely on his pillar of cloud by day and his pillar of fire by night, or if they would grumble and long for the leeks and onions of Egypt. He was seeing if they wanted the gifts more than the giver. And he is doing the very same thing with you right now in your wilderness of financial pressure. He is asking, am I your provider, or is your paycheck your provider? In your wilderness of relational loneliness, he is whispering, am I enough for you? Is my fellowship sufficient to fill the void in your heart? This is where your faith is moved from the theoretical to the tangible. This is where you stop quoting scriptures about Jehovah Jireh and you start clinging to him as your only source of supply. This is where you move from singing songs about his presence to actually discovering that in the midnight hour when no one else is there, his presence is more real than the floor beneath your feet. So what do you do in the wilderness? You do not grumble. You do not try to engineer your own escape. You do not look back at Egypt with longing. You follow the cloud. You gather the manna one day at a time, trusting that he will provide for today's needs today. You strike the rock of Christ with the rod of faith, and you drink from the living water that flows from his side. You pray, Lord, in this dry and thirsty land where no water is, my soul thirsts for you. My flesh longs for you. I will not look to the left or to the right. I will look only to you, for you are the author and the finisher of my faith. I receive this wilderness as my training ground. I welcome this isolation as my place of divine encounter. I thank you for the silence, for in it I will learn to hear your voice above all others. The wilderness is where your identity is forged. It is where you stop being so and so's friend or that person with that job, and you become simply and profoundly his. It is where the pride of man is broken and the dependency of a child is born. And I must warn you, the test is not whether you will enter the wilderness. You are already there, or you will be soon. The test is what you will do there. Will you complain and die in the desert of your own unbelief? Or will you, like David, encourage yourself in the Lord your God? Will you declare, the Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He restores my soul. For when you pass this test, when you have proven that he alone is enough in the barren place, something shifts in the spirit realm. The very wilderness that was meant to break you becomes the pathway to your destiny. But the crucible is not yet done with you, for the fire must burn hotter still to break something even deeper within you. A will that still clings to its own strength. A heart that still believes it can accomplish the work of God. A will that still clings to its own strength. A heart that still believes it can accomplish the work of God. And so the refiner who has brought you through the isolation of the wilderness now turns his attention to the very core of your being. This is the second and most severe of the tests, the test of brokenness. You must understand this, for if you resist it, you will halt the entire process. God cannot use a vessel that is whole in itself. He cannot pour his power into something that is still sealed with the wax of self-sufficiency and pride. His power His genuine miracle, working power, requires a crack. It demands a rupture through which His glory can spill out into a dying world. This is the great paradox of the kingdom's strength is perfected in weakness. Victory is birthed in surrender. Life springs forth from death. You have prayed for the resurrection life of Christ to flow through you, but have you considered the prerequisite? There is no resurrection without a crucifixion. There is no empty tomb without a Geths and a Golgotha first. This test is your personal Gethsemane. It is the place where your will, your dreams, your plans, your reputation, and your very right to yourself are laid upon the altar. And it is here in this sacred and terrifying place that you will decide if you truly mean the words, "Not my will, but thine be done." What does this look like in your daily life? It is not always a dramatic external shattering. More often, it is a quiet internal collapse. It is the moment your meticulously crafted 5-year plan lies in ashes at your feet. Not because you were lazy, but because God allowed it to fail. It is the dream you cherished for your family, the one you believed was godly and good, that He Himself seems to be withholding. It is the talent you were so proud of, the one that brought you applause, that He asks you to lay down in obscurity. It is that prayer you have prayed for years, for a healing that does not come, for a door that does not open, for a relationship that is not restored. It is the humiliating realization that your own strength, your own wisdom, your own charisma is utterly useless for accomplishing the eternal work of God. Look at the Apostle Peter, so sure of his own courage, so confident in his own devotion. "Lord, I am ready to go with thee both into prison and to death." He was whole. He was strong in himself. And what did the Lord say? "I have prayed for thee that thy faith fail not, and when thou art converted, strengthen thy brethren." When thou art converted, Peter was already a disciple. He had already left everything to follow Jesus. But he needed a deeper work. He needed to be broken. And how did it happen? Through the piercing gaze of the Lord after the third denial. That look full of grace and truth did not merely make Peter feel guilty. It shattered him. It exposed the hollow core of his self-confidence. And he went out and wept bitterly. That was the moment the old, unbroken Peter began to die. And on the other side of that death was the man who, filled with the Holy Spirit, would stand up on the day of Pentecost and lead 3,000 souls to Christ. Your breaking will not look like anyone else's. For one, it may be a financial collapse that reveals your trust in mammon. For another, it may be a critical word that wounds your pride so deeply you are forced to see the idol of your own reputation. For a mother, it may be the relentless demands of a child that break her of her selfishness. For a leader, it may be a public failure that crushes his sense of control. God is a master craftsman, and He knows exactly what tool to use, what pressure to apply to the specific stronghold of self that you have built. He will take the very thing you are most proud of, the thing you lean on, and He will allow it to be fractured. Do not fight it. Do not run from the pain. This is not the enemy destroying you. This is the surgeon cutting out the cancer. This is the potter taking the hardened, marred vessel and crushing it back into soft, pliable clay so that he can begin again and make a vessel fit for the master's use. In this place of brokenness, your prayer changes. It is no longer, "God bless my plans." It becomes the raw, desperate cry of the psalmist. "The Lord is nigh unto them that are of a broken heart, and saveth such as be of a contrite spirit." The sacrifices of God are a broken spirit, A broken and a contrite heart, O God, thou wilt not despise. You pray, Father, I surrender, I give up. Break me if you must. Crush my pride, shatter myself. Will do whatever it takes to make me a clean, empty vessel, ready to be filled with nothing but you. I lay my Isaac on the altar. I release my grip on everything I have called my own. This is the most sacred transaction in the Christian life. It is here in the dust of your own brokenness that you exchange your strength for His, your plans for His purpose, your life for His. And as you lie there shattered and seemingly useless, a miracle is taking place in the unseen realm. For it is not the beautifully decorated whole pots that God uses. It is the cracked ones, the ones that have been through the fire and bear the scars through which His light can shine most brilliantly. But do not think for a moment the process is complete. For after the breaking comes a silence so profound, so deafening that it will test the very foundation of the faith you have just professed in your surrender. A silence so profound, so deafening that it will test the very foundation of the faith you have just professed in your surrender. This is the third test, a crucible far more agonizing than the wilderness and more unnerving than the test of silence. You have been broken. You have said, not my will, but thine. You lie at the altar, a living sacrifice, expecting the fire of God to fall in a dramatic display of acceptance and power. But instead of fire, there is nothing, a void, a heavenly quiet that seems to mock your desperation. The heavens become as brass. Your prayers appear to travel no further than the ceiling and fall lifeless back to the floor. The God who was once so near, so tangible in the breaking, has now seemingly withdrawn, and you are left in the chilling vacuum of His apparent absence. This is the most perilous of all the tests, for in this silence, the enemy whispers his most venomous lies. You have gone too far this time. Your breaking was not surrender, it was failure. God is angry with you. He has finally cast you off. You are alone. Your own heart in its raw and wounded state begins to echo these accusations. You search your soul for unconfessed sin. You strive to pray louder, to fast longer, to do something, anything, to pry open the gates of heaven and force a response. But your efforts yield only more silence. The spiritual disciplines that once brought life now feel like empty rituals. The worship songs that once stirred your spirit now feel hollow. You are in the spiritual tomb and the stone has been rolled shut. You must understand this is by divine design. The silence of God is not His rejection. It is the final purging of your faith. Up to this point, your faith has been sustained by something, by His presence, by a feeling, by an answer to prayer, by the confirmation of a brother or sister. But now He removes the last earthly prop. He is asking you the most profound question you will ever be asked. Do you trust my character when you cannot hear my voice? Do you believe I am good when your circumstances scream otherwise? Do you have faith in me for who I am and not merely for the blessings I bestow? This was the test of Job. After losing everything, after being covered in sores, his wife telling him to curse God and die, the scripture says, "Behold, I go forward, but he is not there, and backward, but I cannot perceive him. On the left hand, where he doth work, but I cannot behold him. He hideth himself on the right hand, that I cannot see him." Yet in the very next breath, Job declares, "But he knoweth the way that I take. When he hath tried me, I shall come forth as gold." Job trusted what he knew of God's character, even when he could not perceive God's presence. This is what it means to walk by faith and not by sight. Faith is not a feeling. It is not an emotional experience. It is a stubborn, unwavering commitment to the truth of who God is as revealed in His Word. Regardless of the evidence to the contrary presented by your circumstances or your feelings, it is standing on the promise that I will never leave thee nor forsake thee. When every fiber of your being feels utterly forsaken, it is clinging to the truth that all things work together for good to them that love God. When everything in your life appears to be working together for chaos and destruction, what do you do in the silence? You do what Habakkuk did. You plant your feet on the watchtower and you declare, I will stand upon my watch and set me upon the tower, and will watch to see what He will say unto me. You wait. You stop striving. You cease your frantic efforts to manufacture a word from God. You become still, and you know by faith that He is God. You feed on the written word of God, not for a fresh revelation, but as a record of His past faithfulness. You recall His promises. You remember His deeds. You speak to your own soul as the psalmist did. Why art cast down, O my soul, and why art thou disquieted within me? Hope thou in God, for I shall yet praise Him, who is the health of my countenance and my God. Your prayer in this season is not one of desperate petition, but of quiet, determined affirmation. Lord, You are my God. Your loving kindness is better than life. Though You slay me, yet will I trust in You. I believe that You are good. I believe that You are for me. I believe that You are working behind this silence. I will not be moved from this place. I will wait on You. My soul waiteth for the Lord more than they that watch for the morning. You learn to rest in His sovereignty, even when you cannot trace His activity. You learn to worship a hidden God. This is where your faith becomes unshakable, because it is no longer dependent on the external, but rooted in the eternal character of God Himself. It is in this very silence that the roots of your spirit drive down deep into the bedrock of God's nature, finding a sustenance that feelings and experiences could never provide. But do not mistake this quiet for peace, for the refiner is not finished. Just when you have grown accustomed to the stillness, He will lead you into a season so contrary to everything you expect, a season where He seems to systematically dismantle the very identity you thought He had built. A season of profound and purposeful obscurity. A season of profound and purposeful obscurity. This is the fourth test, and in many ways it is the most humbling of them all. You have endured the silence and found God faithful in the void. A quiet confidence has begun to grow, a sense that your faith is now rooted in something unshakable. And just as you begin to feel a sense of spiritual equilibrium, believing you are finally ready for the purpose you have been begging for, God does the unthinkable. He buries you. He actively conceals you. He places you in a hidden place, away from the spotlight, away from recognition, away from any platform that would seem to validate the very calling He Himself placed within you. This is the test of obscurity. You were prepared for a battle, armed for a great work, and now you find yourself stationed in what feels like an empty closet. Your gifts seem to have no outlet. Your talents are not being used. You watch others, perhaps those you deem less gifted, less seasoned, less broken, being elevated to positions of influence. They are preaching to the crowds, leading the ministries, receiving the accolades for the very work you feel destined to do. And you are in the background. You are folding chairs. You are changing diapers in the nursery. You are working a mundane job that feels utterly disconnected from the grand spiritual destiny you envisioned. The enemy's whisper returns, this time with a new insidious question. Did God really call you? If he did, why are you hidden? Why is your life so small, so insignificant? This, beloved, is where God surgically removes the last vestiges of the desire for glory. In the wilderness, he dealt with your dependency. In the breaking, he dealt with your self-will. In the silence, he dealt with your emotional faith. Now, in the obscurity, he is dealing with your pride. He is answering the prayer you prayed in brokenness. Less of me and more of you in a way you never anticipated. He is ensuring that when, and if he ever chooses to bring you into the light, there will be no shadow of self left to compete with his glory. He is teaching you the profound counterintuitive truth that hiddenness is not a delay of your purpose. It is a vital part of your purpose. Consider the life of David, anointed by the prophet Samuel to be the next king of Israel. The oil of destiny was poured over his head, and the Spirit of God came upon him mightily from that day forward. And what was the very next assignment God gave him? To go back to tending sheep. After the victory over Goliath, a national triumph that made his name famous, what did King Saul do? He made David a commander in his army. No, he made him a lowly captain over a handful of men, and then, driven by jealousy, forced him to become a fugitive living in caves and desolate strongholds for years. David was the anointed king. Yet he spent over a decade living as an outlaw, a forgotten man. God was building a king in the caves, a worshipper in the wilderness, a man after his own heart in the crushing press of obscurity. The throne would come, but the character for the throne was being forged in the hidden years. Your cave is your training ground. The nursery you serve in, the office you work in, the quiet kitchen where you pray. This is the throne room where God is shaping a ruler for his kingdom. It is here. You learn to serve with no one watching but him. It is here you learn to worship when there is no music playing, no congregation responding. It is here you learn to be faithful in the little, because true spiritual authority is not born on a platform. It is born in the private, unseen acts of obedience. He that is faithful in that which is least is faithful also in much. You are not being punished. You are being promoted to the highest school of the Spirit, the school of hidden service. In this place, your prayer must shift from God use me to God make me usable. From God, give me a platform to God. Keep me faithful in this small place. You pray, Lord, I receive this hiddenness as a gift from your hand. I embrace this smallness. I relinquish my need for recognition, my craving for validation. I choose to believe that my significance is found in my position as your child, not in any title or role I may hold. Teach me to work as unto you and not unto men. Let my life be a hidden root, drinking deeply from the living water, so that if a tree ever grows for others to sit under, they will see only the branches pointing to you, and never the root system that sustains it. This is where you discover the joy of anonymity, the freedom of being nobody special for the glory of somebody glorious. You learn that the most powerful ministries are often the ones no human eye will ever see. The intercessions prayed in secret, the acts of kindness done without a camera, the quiet endurance of a saint who has learned to love the will of God more than the work of God. But do not be deceived into thinking this is a peaceful resting place. For just as you begin to find a strange and holy contentment in being unseen, the refiner will turn up the heat once more, bringing you face to face with a demand that will cost you everything you have left. A final absolute surrender of your deepest, most cherished possession. A final absolute surrender of your deepest, most cherished possession. You have learned to abide in the hidden place, to find a strange solace in the shadows where only God sees. But now the divine sculptor who has been chipping away at the outer layers of self takes up a finer tool. He moves from the general to the most specific, from the circumstantial to the profoundly personal. This is the fifth test, the test of surrender. And I must warn you, this will be the most intimate and excruciating confrontation of your life. For God will now ask you for your Isaac. You know what your Isaac is. It is that one thing, that one relationship, that one dream, that one person you have held back from the altar. It is the thing you have whispered in the secret places of your heart. Anything, Lord, but not this. I will go anywhere, do anything, bear any cross, but please let me keep this. It is the child you have dedicated to God, yet secretly plan a future for. It is the marriage you pray God will bless, but on your own terms. It is the calling you embrace, but only if it looks a certain way and brings a certain measure of respect. It is the financial security you claim to trust God for, while your white-knuckled grip on your bank account tells a different story. Your Isaac is the last stronghold of your heart, the final piece of territory upon which you have planted your own flag and declared, "This is mine." God asked Abraham to offer up his son, his only son Isaac, whom he loved. The command was brutal, specific, and seemingly contradicted every promise God had ever made. It made no sense. It appeared cruel. It violated every principle of morality and reason. This is the nature of the ultimate surrender. God will ask you to place on the altar the very thing that He Himself gave you. The very promise He whispered to your spirit, the very dream that you know is from Him. He will ask you to willingly lift the knife over it, to trust Him so completely that you are willing to lose the promise in order to keep the promiser. This is not about God wanting to take things from you. This is about Him wanting to give Himself to you. He knows that as long as Isaac sits on the throne of your heart, there is a rival to His affections. He knows that the blessing He has for you is so immense, so intertwined with His own glory, that it cannot be entrusted to a heart that still has an idol, even a good and godly idol. The thing you cherish has become a wedge, and He loves you too much to allow it to remain. So He asks for it back, not to deprive you, but to divest you of the one thing that prevents you from possessing all of Him. What does this look like in the quiet moments of your life? It is the mother who finally opens her hands and says, "God, my child is yours, their future, their health, their salvation. I release my control. I trust them to you. Even if your plan for them looks different than my dream, it is the businessman who prays. Lord, this company is yours. If you choose to build it or break it, my security and identity are in you, not in its success." It is the single person who surrenders the desperate desire for marriage, truly saying, "God, you are enough. If I never have an earthly companion, I have you and you satisfy." It is the minister who lays his reputation, his platform, and his ministry on the altar and says, "If I never preach to another soul, if I am forgotten by everyone, but I have known you, it is enough." This is the prayer of ultimate surrender. The Gethsemane prayer that goes beyond "they" will be done. 2. I relinquish my right to myself and my right to the dearest possession of my heart. It is the prayer of Jesus. Father, if thou be willing, remove this cup from me. Nevertheless, not my will, but thine be done. It is the prayer of Job the Lord gave, and the Lord hath taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. It is here you declare, though he slay me, yet will I trust in him. The altar is not a place of punishment. It is a place of transaction. You lay down your Isaac, your most precious dream, and you receive in return the unshakable, all-satisfying presence of God himself. You exchange the blessing for the blesser, and in that moment of ultimate release, a miracle often occurs. As with Abraham, the God who provided the ram in the thicket may very well give your Isaac back to you. But now it is different. It is no longer your Isaac held in the grip of possession. It is now a sacred trust from God held with an open hand. And it carries the fragrance of resurrection life, because it has passed through the fire and been given back by grace. But whether he returns it or not, you have gained everything, for you have found that he is more than enough. Yet even in this sacred space of surrender, with your Isaac bound and the knife raised, the test is not yet complete. For the God who demands your all must now prove that this surrender was not a fleeting emotional crisis, but the settled posture of a life. He will now lead you back to the mundane, to the ordinary, to the daily grind, to see if your surrendered heart will hold fast when there are no burning bushes, no dramatic altars, and no visible ram in the thicket. Only the relentless ordinary call of daily obedience. Oh, only the relentless ordinary call of daily obedience. This is the sixth test, and in many ways, it is the most revealing of them all. The test of faithfulness in little. You have faced the dramatic crisis of faith, the wilderness, the breaking, the silence, the obscurity, the ultimate surrender. You have passed through fire and flood, and you stand now, you believe, a proven vessel. But God is not yet finished with his examination. The grand gestures of surrender in the moment of crisis must now be translated into the unglamorous, repetitive, and often tedious fabric of everyday life. He is now watching to see what you do when no one is looking, when there is no emotional reward, when the only audience is his own unseen eye. This is where many stumble. They are prepared to die a martyr's death in a single glorious moment, but they are not prepared to die to self 1,000 times a day in the mundane. They dream of leading multitudes, but neglect to lead their own thoughts captive to Christ. They pray for nations but fail to show consistent kindness to a difficult coworker. They believe they are ready for the much of God's kingdom, while consistently proving unfaithful in the little he has already placed before them. And the Lord himself said, "He that is faithful in that which is least is faithful also in much. And he that is unjust in the least is unjust also in much." Your handling of the small, insignificant details of your life is the truest indicator of your readiness for the weight of spiritual authority. What are these little things? They are the daily disciplines that no one will ever applaud. It is the choice to get out of bed and spend time in the Word when you feel nothing. When the pages seem dry and your prayers feel routine. It is the decision to speak the truth in love when a lie would be easier. It is the commitment to do your job with excellence and integrity, not for a promotion or for human praise, but as an act of worship unto the Lord, even if your boss is unfair and your efforts go unnoticed. It is the determination to maintain a heart of gratitude and praise when the circumstances are frustrating and your plans are interrupted. It is the faithful stewardship of the $5 in your hand when you are praying for $50. It is the gentle answer to a provoking child, the patient endurance with an aging parent, the refusal to engage in gossip around the water cooler. This is where your character is solidified. The dramatic moments of testing reveal what is in you, but the daily grind of faithfulness builds the character that can sustain the calling. God is building a structure that will not collapse under the weight of His glory. And the integrity of any structure is found in the quality of its smallest components, in the hidden nails and the unseen joints. If you are careless with the small things, you will be compromised in the great things. If you cannot be trusted with the temporal, who would entrust to you the true riches of heaven? Consider the life of Joseph. His story is marked by dramatic dreams and dramatic betrayals. But the key to his ultimate exaltation was his unwavering faithfulness in the little. When he was a slave in Potiphar's house, he did not sulk and lament his lost destiny. He served with such excellence and integrity that Potiphar put him in charge of everything he owned. When he was thrown into prison for a crime he did not commit, he did not become bitter and abandon his God. He again served so faithfully that the warden put him in charge of all the prisoners. In the dungeon with no hope of release, Joseph remained faithful in the little. He interpreted the dreams of the butler and the baker with the same grace and wisdom he would later use to interpret Pharaoh's dream. His faithfulness in the prison prepared him for the palace. The man who could be trusted with a prison cell could be trusted with the economy of the most powerful nation on earth. Your prayer in this season must be one of focused, practical devotion. Lord, grant me the grace for today's obedience. Help me to be faithful in this small task, in this difficult relationship, in this financial decision. Let my life be a testament to your faithfulness in the mundane. I offer you this load of laundry, this spreadsheet, this commute, this conversation. I choose to do it all as unto you for your eyes alone. I ask for the strength to be consistent, to be patient, to be kind, to be honest when no one is watching but you. I welcome this training in the ordinary, for I know that a man who is faithful in little will be made ruler over much. This is the final forging of a trustworthy vessel. It is the slow, steady, unspectacular process that turns the crisis-born surrender into a lifelong posture. It is the proof that the death you died in the moment of breaking was a real death, and that the resurrection life of Christ is now flowing through the most ordinary channels of your existence. But just when you have mastered the rhythm of daily faithfulness, when you have proven yourself in the little and feel a quiet confidence that the testing must surely be nearing its end, God will unveil the final, most shocking test of all. A test that will call into question everything you thought you knew about His ways and plunge you into a conflict where the very core of your understanding of good and evil will be challenged to its absolute limit.